This is 8-year-old Xuanyi moments before his first ever world record. Except, this solve should have not happened, because on paper this is the most unlikely occurrence to happen in speed cubing history, and has nothing to do with him getting really lucky or even the fact that he's 8 years old. It all has something to do with his approach. Let's go back to where it all started, when Max Park got his first ever world record single. This was the catalyst that started the most insane and entertaining hunt for a world record we had ever seen. It was the hunt for sub 3. And just like how all great stories start, it started out with Garrett. Just weeks after Max's world record single, he got this. This was absolutely insane. It's a shame that it happened right after Max's world record, but there was a huge opportunity in this solve that he missed out on that could have made this a world record. When first taking a look at the scramble, there's a very easy X cross you can make with this block and this cross edge right here. So you already have this orange solved in the back. So you're gonna start with yellow top, red front, and do R prime, F, R2. And that solves these two plus the corner block. You then have this blue and white cross edge, which Luke solves like this, D, F2, and before doing the last D prime, you want to insert this edge right here. But you don't want to just insert it normally because you want to set up to a better second pair. So instead, he keeps this pair in mind and does a U and inserts this with a U2, which sets this up into a 3 mover. You can do the D prime and then do the 3 mover. Now this is where I believe he failed world record, because this pair is so easy to see, you just solve it right into the back left. But no, he's Luke Garrett. Of course you're not going to solve it into the back left. You're going to do a Y2 first, then solve this pair, and then solve this for last pair, which is arguably harder to look ahead into, which you solve like that. He then got this OLL, which this OLL is so easy. All you do is hedge, insert the pair, and that's a PLL skip with U prime AUF. Because of that Y2 he had to do during the solve, it actually made it a lot slower. Luke is really fast at doing Y2s and spamming R and U moves, but I think that this was actually a huge world record fail. Around this time, we saw Tymon go on an absolute tear of European records, getting 3 new records and lowering it down to 3.66 seconds. But of course, this wasn't the only thing that happened around this time. The man, the myth, the legend, you've heard of him before, Wang. And what he's about to do might be one of the saddest things to go down in cubing history, because on this day he goes into the last solve of this competition. The current Asian record at the time is still Xuanyi's 3.47, and on this scramble Wang was able to predict the entirety of his F2L. For a scramble to be this good, the odds are super low. All he needed to do was turn well and to get a good last layer, and this is what happened. Yep, one of the worst last layers he could have gotten. This scramble, in my opinion, is the craziest one we have ever seen in cubing history. If you solve the cross pretty basic by putting in red, then putting in blue, then putting in orange, and then putting in green lastly by just like sledging it in. Triple X cross? Yeah, not only that, you have this free pair that's just sitting in the slot. That is a 10 move triple X cross. To have a human findable triple X cross is so rare. I would say you'd get over 10 last layer skips before you get a human findable 10 move triple X cross. I also asked AI what it thought about it, and it said this is in the billions and billions of chances. So the fact that Wang did this on this scramble is so rare that this might be the last time we ever see this. Now at this point, Wang had a choice on how he was going to solve this pair. Did he just want to just take it out and then solve it, or did he want to use a fancy algorithm to solve it? And as many of you guys know, Wang sacrifices efficiency for turn speed, and from this point in inspection, it's pretty obvious. If you want to do turn speed, you just take out the pair and solve it like this, and what that does is it results in this terrible OLO and an F perm with a U2 AUF. The fact that he was still able to get a 3.47 with this terrible solution is a miracle on its own. Like, look at how long that is. So many moves, and he was able to get 13 turns per second on this solve. Crazy enough as well, he had his F2L done in 1.6 seconds. I think that's the fastest we've ever seen in cubing history. But let's just see what would have happened if he just solved this in the most efficient way possible. No way. 9 move last layer. This is just the basic OLL case into a PLL skip. That would have been so crazy. So instead of doing the 29 move last layer like he did, he could have just done the 9 move last layer. And since Wang sacrifices efficiency for TPS, he just threw away the greatest scramble we have ever seen in cubing history, throwing away the greatest opportunity that we have ever seen to get a world record. So we started 2024 with an absolute bang of a solve from Yi Wing. Dang, that was a pretty good rhyme. But that leads us into the summer of 2024 when absolute chaos erupts. The first thing we see is Maddie getting 2 sub 4s at the same competition, placing him 5th in the world. But then we saw one of the craziest results we never saw coming. Aaron Huen. Aaron Huen is a very good speedkeeper, but most people don't know who he is. So when he went into the last solve of his competition, no one expected what was going to happen. But what can I say? When you get a sub 30 move count solution, you know it's going to be a good time. And a good time did Aaron get. And just with that, that was the 3rd person to ever beat Xuanyi's 347 from 2018. When taking a look at the scramble, it's obvious why Aaron was able to get such a good time. As you can see, there's this block already formed, and there's also a block right here, so you can use that to make a double X cross. When you first solve blue with this right here, and then insert the block right here, it actually already solves the edge, which is like a free X cross. Now you just have to figure out how to solve this last cross edge and this F2L edge to go with this corner right here. But if you don't do this last R prime right here, you can actually add a U move first, which solves the edge when you do an R prime like this. Now when you do a D, it's gonna solve this pair, and now all you do is you just have this last cross edge. If you insert the cross edge like this, it breaks the pair, but if you do a U2 first, when you do it, it hides this pair, so you can just insert the cross edge just like that. For 3rd pair, pretty standard, you just rotate and solve it like this. But at this point, this is where Aaron separates from everyone else. Like most people, I would have probably just inserted the pair like this and gotten a trash last pair. Aaron didn't do that though. Obviously, he's big-brained, and he noticed if he sledgehammers it gives him a 3 mover. And not only that, if you just insert it, you're gonna have sexy sledge PLL skip. Woo! And this last layer is absolutely insane. Look at this. So fast. Aaron did have minute lockups, but I think this could have been a lot faster with that crazy last layer. I would say if anybody in the top 10 did the same solution, they could have gotten a sub 3 because Aaron only had like 8 TPS. With this result, it moved Xuanyi and Yi Wing down to tied 4th in the world. But of course, Yi couldn't let this happen for long. So of course, a couple weeks later, Yi struck back again with a PLL skip, leading to an Asian record. But in this solve, Yi actually used an old OLL algorithm that most people don't use, which actually led to the PLL skip, which just made it that much more impressive. But we knew this new Asian record would not stand for long, because just in 2 weeks we would see the top 4 fastest cubers in the world compete at the Asian Championships. We knew something would go down, and we didn't have to wait for long. Because in the first round of the competition, Yi Wing destroyed the world record, getting a 4.09 average. Which of course, that's not the topic of this video, but there's something in this average that we have to take a look at. In his 4th solve, Yi got a 3.69, which is an absolute insane solve, with the left soon PLL skip. But I just want you to take a look at this solve. 1 huge pause, 2 huge pauses, 3.69? What? How is this solve even possible? Well, that's because of the crazy low move count. And on this solve, Yi only had 9 TPS. That is actually so sad. If Yi just had a higher TPS, this could have been a sub 3. And for the next 2 rounds, we didn't really see any crazy results. We saw some great results, but nothing that was world record potential. But in the finals, we saw some of the best turning we have ever seen ever. But the craziest thing is, this was not from Yi Wing, because doing a 47 move solution in 3.24 seconds should not be possible. But when you're Rohang Shu, anything is possible, I guess.
This looks great. 2024! What?
Oh my gosh!
What?
And he executed this solve at 14 turns per second. On this scramble, Rohang actually did a really weird solution. Instead of doing yellow with this really obvious block, he did white cross. The reason why is because Rohang just loves to spam R and U moves, and this cross solution is very, very easy, with 3 cross pieces attached to the opposite, and this one to be inserted very easily. He first started by putting yellow front, orange top to insert this first edge with a U move right here. He then solved the green edge by doing an L, and then the last edge by doing a wide L prime. And what that does is it puts the 3 into the bottom while putting yellow on top. A lot of you might notice for this last edge, you can actually insert it with this last blue edge by doing a U prime and then putting it in like that. But what that does is it puts this pair in a bad position, which is what Rohang was tracking. So instead, that's why he just inserted this edge right here. And then what he did is he sledged that edge in like this. And what that does is it reorients this edge right here, and it sets up this pair to be decent. Now, if you do a D2, it actually is a very, very bad pair because of the positioning of this corner. But if you just do a D move, it sets up this case right here, which you can just pair it up like this, do a D move, and then insert it into the back. While he was doing that, he saw this corner right here and this edge right here, and this has a really cool solution that's only 5 moves. If you do an F prime, it's just a 3 mover, so you can just insert it into the back. And instead of just doing F, Roy Heng rotated because he's RNU spam, did it like this, and then saw this pair right here. So he does a U prime, pairs up the pair, U2, and inserts it. Rotates back, and for this pair, the typical way of solving it is just double sexy, which is what he did. And right here, you can start to see all the blocks formed, and boom, you get sexy sledge for last layer. Just like this, UAUF, and that is a crazy last layer. For this last slot, a lot of you guys might have realized if you do a hedge right here, then do another hedge, it OLO skips and give an A perm. But for Roy Heng's solving style, he doesn't like to do F moves, he just wants to spam RNU moves, and it only gives an A perm, so it obviously would have not been fast. And if you can just spam through this last layer, you're going to get a really fast time. It's crazy how similar Aaron Huen's last layer was to Roy Heng's. Both of them were just RU spam into a sexy sledge OLL PLL skip. Really insane solve from Roy Heng, and that's why he was able to turn at 14 TPS, just because of all the RU spam. And I don't think we're going to see a solve be this inefficient and be this fast at the same time ever again besides this one. Now, this is what the rankings looked like at the end of 2024. It had been a year and a half since Max's 313, and we have gotten very close. Now, I have to admit, there are 2 things I didn't tell you. First, all of these solves I've showed you have been done using CFOP. CFOP is a method that 90% of pro cubers use. It's a method that is simple to learn and optimizes for fast singles and world records. In fact, all of these solves right here have been done using CFOP. All of them, but one. This is 8-year-old Xuanyi Geng getting his PR right before the end of 2025 with the 349. This 349 was the last solve of 2024 to enter into the top 10. But as I said, Xuanyi uses a very rare and uncommon method. A method that less than 1% of cubers know. A method with 800 algorithms to use the entirety of it. And I bet you've heard of it before. This is the ZB method. And ZB is almost the opposite of CFOP. It optimizes in consistency and results, reducing the amount of good singles you get. But looking at Xuanyi's times, it's kind of an absolute miracle that this kid has 2 solves that are faster than any solve Tymon or Maddie has done. And that just doesn't make logical sense. But this was all hypothetical, of course, because maybe ZB was good for singles. Because if so, this would help explain what happens later in 2025. But yeah, let's go back to the end of 2024. We had a lot of good singles, but no single world records. We knew a world record was overdue and literally just had to happen. And at this point, Max's 313 was just not as good as it was back in 2023. We literally now had a world record average that was less than a second away from the world record single. The closest we had seen in years. The tension was building up. Something was going to happen, and we could feel it coming. And right on cue, Yi Heng delivered. This solve had 2 things going for it. It was one of the most impressive world records we had ever seen, and one of the saddest. When looking at the scramble, there's nothing particularly good that you initially see, which is the complete opposite of these new cubicle mats. Look at these are super clean. Look at that, so nice. And there's not just that one, there's this one, and that one, and even this one. Look at all these are super cool. I'm using this colorful one today because it looks pretty awesome. Also, look at this, my own custom cube. This is so awesome. This is coming out in a couple of days from when you're gonna see this video, and I'm actually visiting the cubicle right now, so that's pretty awesome. So yeah, check out thecubicle.com and use discount code Caden if you want to keep supporting me to make videos like these. Alright, looking at Yi Heng's solution, you see this orange edge, which is one move from being solved to the white in the back right here. You would then have this F prime that you can do to put these 2 to their opposites as well. Instead of finger tricking it like an F prime, he puts yellow on front, which is what Yi Heng likes to do to make finger tricks easier. So he finger tricks it like a U prime D prime to put this orange in the back and set up these 2 cross edges. He then does an L and then a wide L prime, kind of like on one of the solves I showed you earlier. That solves 3 of the cross edges. And then for this last cross edge, you can actually insert it with an R prime right here, but it sets up this pair. So instead of doing an R prime, you can add an extra U prime, then do an R prime, and that sets up a 3 mover. So U prime D at the same time, insert the 3 mover. Now, I'm not sure if Yi Heng predicted the entire F12, but he definitely predicted 3 pairs. So when I first saw this scramble, I thought, oh, he must have just gone for this pair and then did the last 2 pairs somehow. But no, Yi Heng is way smarter than me. If you do this back pair right here with double back sexy, Look at that, you set up into a 3 mover, which you can cancel right into like that. For this last pair, this is really hard to see, which I think this is why Yiheng predicted full F2L, because looking to the white is super hard and you would have to like go like that or rotate or something dumb. But Yiheng is really smart. So he pairs it up like this, and at this point you can see it's gonna OLL skip because of this huge block and the yellow right here. So he does a U prime, inserts the pair like this, and you get a U perm, which is super nice. And the cool thing is you're already in this grip because of how you solved the last pair. So you can do a U prime, do the U perm, and then a U prime AUF. I don't know how many moves it is, but it was crazy high move count, which meant he had crazy TPS. But you might be wondering, what was so sad about this solve? Super impressive high TPS? Well, that was because on this U perm right here, he did the U perm, and right about here, he like missed a U move or something. I don't know what he did. He like fumbled it and then finished off the cube like that. Which he was still able to have 14 TPS with that huge lockup. He was only 0.09 seconds off of breaking sub 3. If he just didn't have that lockup, he would have had sub 3 easily. It could have been like a 2.8 or something. And that's why this is one of the biggest sub 3 fails in history. But it's awesome Yiheng was able to get his first ever world record single. But yeah, check out the Kaden cube. Look at that logo. It's so cool. And with that solve, he was just 0.9 seconds off of the world's first sub 3. And at that point, everyone thought that Yiheng would be the first to get a sub 3 Rubik's Cube solve. To think otherwise would just be plain stupid. Yiheng was the fastest cuber in the world using the most optimized method for single world records while also having the momentum going his way. It made perfect logical sense that the next world record single would be a sub 3 by Xuanyi Geng using CFOP. And that's why, on paper, this moment that was about to happen should have never been possible. And this solution by Xuanyi was perfect. On the scramble, when looking at white, there's kind of a block right here, but not a great cross solution because of this bad green and white edge right here. But yellow's a lot easier because of this piece that's solved and these two that are attached to their colors. So we're gonna do yellow cross, and I bet you guys could follow on yellow cross. It's not that hard. He first sees that if you insert red, it puts green into this position. But if you want to solve green, you just have to do that. So instead of just doing an R prime, he's gonna do an R2 like that, and then insert green. Before inserting red in here, he has orange right here. So he actually does this L prime right here because after doing an R, you have that right there. So he's gonna add a U prime and then do R, which makes this a free pair. Now, normally when I have a free pair like this, I do U2 and then insert it like this. And then the continuation is not amazing from here. I mean, you have like this pair and this pair, but Xuanyi doesn't do that actually. From this position, he just does a U and then does R prime U2 R to insert it with U2. What that effectively does is it makes this pair right here and this pair. And if you just go ahead and solve this pair like normal, by splitting it up, it actually just solved this back pair. So now you just have like a multi-slot situation. So you can just insert the 3 mover. Now for ZBLS, it's just the basic case. So then you can just solve it with RU2 R prime to split it up and then insert it. Now from here, this is when Xuanyi must have been freaking out. Look at this. There's the huge block right here. These two are matching. These two are opposites. This is just the basic OLL. So if you just do the basic OLL, PLL skip. And because Xuanyi uses ZB, he had to pause for a while to recognize the ZBLL, which that tiny pause is what cost him sub 3. Comparatively, from Yiheng to Xuanyi, Yiheng had 14 TPS while Xuanyi only had 10. But that doesn't even matter because Xuanyi had such an efficient solution, which is what counts. But yes, if there was less of a pause right here and he just went straight into it, he would have had a sub 3 solve. This is the first ever world record single done by a ZB user, and there's a good reason why. As I said, there's less than 1% of cubers that use full ZB, meaning that there's a very small percentage of cubers that can even achieve a world record with ZB. And on top of that, you have to remember that ZB is optimized for consistency and averages and not for singles. So the fact that Xuanyi achieved this while managing to not break the sub 3 barrier is actually so highly improbable, it breaks my brain. So what can we learn from this world record? ZB is a contender for world record singles. There are dozens of easy ZB cases that result in lucky times. And remember, you are 8 times more likely to get a last layer skip with ZB than CFOP. And last time we saw people get last layer skips and get really good times was the 2 8-second solvers from the UK, and they both got 3s. And sadly, this is where our story actually comes to a close because we still haven't gotten a sub 3 single. As of the day of recording this is May 12th, 2025, and we are still yet to get a sub 3 single. But really quick, I want to do a prediction on when the sub 3 single will happen. I truly do believe it will happen before the World Championships, which is July 4th weekend. And that is in like a month and a half. Holy cow, it's creeping up on us. And honestly, at this point, I could see anyone getting it. Yiheng because of his TPS, Xuanyi because of his efficient solutions, or even Luke Garrett because he's Luke Garrett. And I'm so excited to see what happens. And what if it happens this weekend? You know what? I'm calling it. It's going to happen this weekend. 2.78. It's happening this weekend. If I got it right, you better subscribe. And also, I just got a text saying you guys like free stuff. So how about this? I like to get subscribers and you like free stuff. So how about if you subscribe and comment on this video, I'll give away $20 to thecubicle.com. And I hope y'all enjoy this video. Yes, this is a 20-minute long video. Crazy. It took so long to make. And yeah, peace out. Oh, the stupid idiot forgot to talk about his coaching. Okay, well, I guess I'll just talk about it right now. Boom, QR code on screen. Go check that out. I do coaching on cubing.gg, so if you want to get faster, check it out. All right, see ya.